Hello, good morning. My name is Brian, aka Greymerk, and today I want to try doing something a little bit different. I've been mostly doing Minecraft videos and stuff like that because I like sandbox type of things like Minecraft, and YouTube in itself is sort of it's kind of a sandbox videography environment of sorts. You can pretty much do whatever you want, and so today I'm going to try and do something a bit different and do a little project that I've been wanting to do for a while, which is talk about game programming, which is sort of the sandboxiest of sandboxy things you can possibly do in your life. But I just want to quickly go over some of the tools and where to get them, because I'm going to be limiting myself to 3 basic things. One of them is Python, which you can get at python.org. It's the actual programming language. You go to download, and there's an MSI installer for whether you have Windows 32 or 64-bit. If you're on Linux, you already have it. I believe Mac comes with Python 2, although I'm not quite sure whether it comes with Pygame. I know that Linux doesn't, and certainly Windows does not. You got to get that too if you want to try and do the same thing that I'm doing here. So it's where's the downloads? There you go, downloads, and there's an MSI installer for Windows as well. I'm using Python 2.x, which is typically that's what a lot of people are still using these days. And Notepad++ is the editor that I'm going to use for everything that I'm going to do in these videos. And that's just an improved version of the standard. I mean, well, it's not really an improved version of Notepad. It's just it includes all of the basic functionality of Windows Notepad, plus a whole bunch of extra stuff, like makes it easier to read code and stuff like that. So I just want to take a few minutes and sort of talk about what I want to do here, because I have watched a fair number of other people's Python and Java, etc. tutorials on YouTube, and I don't really want to make tutorials per se. I kind of want to do more of a let's play of Pygame. I want to really focus on Pygame and what it's about and kind of what you can do with it, but I don't want to show a whole lot of code, and one of the things I hate the most that I see is like fast forwards of coding, because I think it's a waste of time. I don't think that anybody gains anything from watching a bunch of text being scribbled onto a screen super fast and, techno music playing and all that stuff. So I'm not going to do that. Mostly I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to develop code snippets, kind of explain what I'm thinking, and a little bit of the process of what I normally do when I'm trying to write a program or a game or whatever. I'm not even, terribly experienced at game making, and maybe that'll help to kind of make what I do perhaps a little bit more accessible if you're not familiar with what's involved. If you're new to making. If you don't know any programming at all, I want this to be at least entertaining, if not educational. So I hope you enjoy it, and so let's just get started here. All I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make a folder on my desktop here. Actually, I already have a Pygame directory there. Let's just call this games. I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to get started with the most sort of basic thing. Just create a text document and call it test.py. Py is the extension for Pygames. Just say, yeah, I want to change the extension. So if you have Notepad++ installed, you can just go edit with Notepad++, and it pops it open. I'm just going to close these, and yeah, you get tabs. You can create more tabs for different documents that you have open. So with Python, really, you can go. Let's just pretend here that you don't know anything about Python. So you can go, like print hello, and I'm just going to open a command prompt and go to desktop/games and ls. I'm going to apologize. I'm a Linux guy actually, so whatever. I'm just going to say ls. You can also go dir if you absolutely must. Now, I understand that using terminals is not, the most popular thing to some people, but in this case, for just for the sake of demonstrating a few things, I'm just going to use a terminal window, and all I'm going to do here is run the program, and I'll show you what happens if you don't have a terminal window open already. So let's see, test.py. It prints hello at the prompt. So now you can also run this program just by double-clicking it, but you'll notice that what happens is that another console window just pops up and then disappears instantly. You can sort of fudge it by going like while true pass, and then the program won't be able to exit, so you'll just wind up with it. Oop. Hey, what happened there? Well, that's funny. Well, that's odd. I should have just got... Oh, I see it. I made a mistake there. Okay, so now it's caught in an infinite loop. So I've got this program that's in a sort of... It's stuck running inside of this thing where it's just cycling. It's saying, essentially forever, just sit here and do nothing. So I'm just going to kind of show you, essentially, this is a very important concept if you're making a game, because what a game does is it kind of sits there essentially for forever doing stuff, and that's pretty much the core principle of what's involved. So I can say while true, let's just start a couple things here. So inside this loop, I can say print hello. Oops, I need to put that in quotes, and then I can run it, and you see it's now printing hello, 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 hello infinitely. That's fun. Well, what does that do for us? Well, you can create a variable like counter equals 0, say, and go print counter plus equals 1, and then you can actually do stuff inside of that loop. And that's pretty much how a game really works. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut and set up some of the stuff that you need just to have a basic Python, like a Pygame setup, and then I'm just going to briefly explain kind of what it all does, but so I'll be right back. Okay, here's an import statement that's saying, get me the Pygame tool set. Essentially, it's just, here's these tools, and you just initialize Pygame here. Like, this is just a whole bunch of setup stuff. So I'm saying that my screen size is 640 by 480 for the box that I'm going to create, and give me an image that I can draw on, and then fill it with what this is an RGB color, essentially lime green, and then just draw the surface onto the screen, and then just sit there and do nothing. So there's that. That's pretty exciting, isn't it? Well, it's something. And it's not very many lines of code to do something. So let's put something actually in there. I'm just gonna set up an object to draw in the middle there. Okay, so Pygame includes a tool called Rect, which allows you to set up a square or a box at a position defined by these coordinates. In this case, I'm putting it at 0, 0. 0, 0 in Pygame means the upper left corner. So I'm just saying put in the upper left corner a rectangle of size 50 by 50 pixels. And then I'm defining the color blue as 0, 0, 255. And then I'm saying to Pygame, draw the rect onto this surface, the one defined up here, the color blue as defined up here, and put this box that I've defined up here. So it combines all of this information together, and then it displays it on the screen. And there it is. Now, we're still in a state where we're just, at the end of this program, we're just saying while true, pass, which means that nothing's happening. But we can actually make stuff happen by putting information inside of this loop. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I've defined the x and y for the position of the rectangle outside of this loop. I've moved everything else inside, including all of the surface fill, the definition of size, color, and this rectangle, and the instruction to draw the rectangle inside of this loop. So every time that this goes through its cycle, it redefines these properties. These could actually be, I could move size outside because it doesn't get redefined. That too. And this. At the bottom of the this loop, x is being incremented by 1, which means that whatever x currently is, it's being increased by 1. And so when I run this, the box floats off the screen. So that's what happens when you put one of these named items inside of the loop and you increase its value. Then it changes the way that this is defined. So it isn't actually being moved. Its position is being reset to a value that's changing. So I can increase the. I can also go y plus equals 1, and then it should move diagonally. So what we can do actually is set up a set of rules so that when it reaches a certain position it'll change directions. So I'm just going to set that up now. Okay, I've set up a velocity value for the x and the y direction and a test inside of this loop to check to see if the box has gone beyond the edge of the screen, and if it does, to reverse its direction as defined by a positive and negative value of 1. So what's happening is that when the game detects that the box's position is outside of what I've defined to be the screen area, whether it's the 0 value here or the positive 640 or 480 value, then it switches a -1 to a +1 or a +1 to a -1, and then it continues to increment and decrement in sort of oscillating directions. Now what I want to do actually is take what we've done so far and turn it into object-oriented code. And you may have heard the term object-oriented before, but I want to kind of take a minute to just get started while this is very simple to produce an object-oriented component out of this box. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so now what we have is object-oriented code. And what this means is that the flow of control for this program no longer goes in a straight line from top to bottom. What happens is that two objects are being defined here. One is the main body of this is the actual, like the main game, if you will. So this is a definition for the way that the game is going to behave. It's going to set up these values. It's going to create a box, and then it's going to enter a loop, and then update and draw the box. The box is defined here. A box has an X and a Y position. It has a velocity, it has a size, it has a color. And when it's asked to update, which it's done once each time it goes through this loop, then it updates the velocity, the position based on the velocity, and does the check to see if it's gone beyond the bounds and reverse the velocity if it has. And then there's a draw function that's defined here that tells it how to draw itself. So then at the very end of the program is a call to create a main object, which happens here. So this part of the program is the first line of code that actually does something. And what it does is it calls this object, which then creates this one, which then continues in an infinite loop updating. So this is an important concept in programming in general that I think is critical to understand if you actually want to do anything beyond the simplest kind of programming, which is that you can actually do the same thing in many different ways, and it becomes a question of design. This is object-oriented design. And the reason why this is an interesting way of doing things as opposed to the other way is it allows you to reuse this idea of the box and create multiple of them. So I'm just going to quickly do that just to kind of show what that means. Okay, I've made some small changes in main here. Nothing's been changed in the box. None of this has changed. But what I've done is I've created my other box. So this is creating the first box, and this is creating another box. My other box's color is set to red. This is 255 value of red, 0 of green, 0 of blue. My other box X is set to 300 and Y is set to 100. So I can set the properties for the box right here. I can set the properties for either one, really. And then inside the loop, I'm saying update my box and update my other box. Draw my box, draw my other box. So I'm making calls to both of these objects to update themselves and to draw themselves. And then I'm flipping the display. So let's see what that looks like. Ooh, wow, this is fun. Why don't we make another box? And again, so yet another box has been made. It's been given this color, which I believe is magenta. And a different position, a different starting position has been set for it. And it's been added to the loop, telling it to update and draw itself. And that's what it looks like when you run it. So what we have here is, what I'm trying to demonstrate is that if you just create a set of rules inside of an object definition here, also known as a class, and this allows you to actually reuse the idea of what the box is or what the object is that you're working with, and to just create multiple of them and manage them in whatever way you want, which is better than having to rewrite all of this code a whole bunch of times and manage it that way. because this way what I can do is I can actually change one of the rules inside here, and that will change it for all of them. So why don't we make it so that these boxes actually draw themselves as circles instead. Well, that's easier than I actually thought it would be. So I just changed the word here from rect to ellipse. So instead of drawing a rectangle, it's now drawing an ellipse with the same other parameters. So there's the circles. And so all of the boxes have been converted into circles. And it only needs to be changed here because they're all following the rules of what a box is. So now there's one last thing that I want to cover, and then that's going to be it for today. And that's how to handle some basic user input, because for right now, even clicking on the X button doesn't work. It just freezes the program and asks you if you want to abort. So, okay, so I've imported a part of the Pygame library specifically called pygame.locals, which defines a whole bunch of keys and different event types by name, such as quit and keydown, and all the key codes for various input keys. So right here, what we're doing is we're saying all of the input events, fetch them from pygame.event.get, and this is a function that gets all of the recently detected input events. And then we loop through those events and check for any of them that are of a quit type. So quit is just a type of an event that's usually triggered by hitting the X on the side of a window. Or maybe Alt F4 does the same thing, I'm not sure. Or maybe that might be actually a lower level thing. And then otherwise check for key down events. And if it's a key down event, check to see if it's the letter Q. And if it's a Q, then set this done value to true. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that what I've done is I've changed the while loop condition from looping just based on true, which just means forever, to while not done. So what that's saying is while this done value is false. False is not true, so you can say not done. And then set the value to done, and so if it is done, then it's going to break out of this loop and fall out of the program. And so all that means is that that this function will be completed, this main function. And then the program will terminate. So we can see that here. We run the program, and I'm going to hit the letter Q, and the program exits. And so every game pretty much needs that. And then you can expand these events to include mouse events and different keys and just about anything else that's covered. So, but it's mostly going to be keyboard and mouse events. So I think that's it for today. Ultimately, I think my goal for this is going to be to create like a breakout game or something like that by extending this code. So I'm not really intending that this is going to be fully a tutorial. There's lots of Python tutorials and various different types of programming tutorials, but what I really want to focus on is to try and essentially, if you're new to programming, then hopefully this can be sort of like I can take you for a ride in the process of developing simple games. And I'm not sure if that'll be an enjoyable experience or not. I don't want it to be intimidating. This is just sort of a for fun thing. And so if you don't really fully understand what's going on, that's fine. Just as long as I'm able to sort of communicate the general idea of what I'm doing and what I'm thinking as I'm designing stuff. Because I think that's the thing that I remember when I was first starting out programming, that was kind of the interesting thing about, how does this stuff actually happen, and how does it, how do words in code files turn into moving objects and colors and so forth, and And, kind of what's the general idea? Because code on its own isn't very interesting. What's interesting about programming is the design principle of it. And so that's really what I want to try to convey with this series. But if you have any questions or anything that you'd like me to actually show specifically, go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll try to address it in a future video. And so that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I hope this was fun. I had fun doing it. See you next time.